Hello everyone, Voodoo here, and in today's video, I kind of want to do a bit of like a meta update, so to speak, but focus specifically on Havoc Demon Hunter and how we're kind of faring, I guess, right now in the 10.2.5 Dragonflight meta. Havoc is still a pretty strong option, but some nerfs and buffs to other specs might have caused us to change our position a bit. So make sure you like the video, comment, and subscribe. And with that out of the way, let's get right into the video and talk about how Havoc's doing in this current patch. Before we get to that though, I do want to say a quick word from our sponsor, and that is going to be G Fuel Energy. So G Fuel has come out with this brand new flavor that's been around before. So I guess they're re-releasing it called Watermelon Mint. Now I was having some on stream the other day, and it's actually pretty good. It's really refreshing. The mint isn't too strong. So if you're somebody who's looking for an energy formula with not much sugar, well, with zero sugar in it actually, it leaves you with no jitters. It's good for late night gaming sessions, trips to the gym, or just if you don't like coffee like me. I don't like the taste of coffee. Sometimes on the way to work, I'll put half a scoop in my water or something. But yeah, so use code Voodoo at checkout for 20% off to try this new watermelon mint flavor or other flavors, or use the code in the description below. So thank you to G Fuel for sponsoring this. Check out their new watermelon mint flavor. It's pretty good. And let's get on to the video. So we're gonna take a look at the Mythic Plus kind of a representation first. Now if you hear anything, it's my cat. He's out playing, he's out and around. So he might even pop in, we never know. Oh, here he is actually right now. Ta-da! Anyways, as I was saying, let's take a look at Havoc in like keys. So we're looking at the top keys here, and this is representation through all Mythic Plus levels. And we see that Havoc actually is the third most represented spec in general. Now, that doesn't mean anything about their popularity, I mean their strength, that's just their popularity. But generally there is a correlation between popularity and strength. Explaining over there. Now, there are some caveats to that, right? Generally speaking, things like Beast Mastery Hunter and Retribution Paladins, they're going to be more popular even if they're not as strong, because those are popular specs. Havoc is another one of those specs where, generally speaking, even if they're not as strong, they're still fairly popular. But they definitely do have a really strong representation. So if we start to narrow down between like 30s and up, we see that they're the third most represented spec. Oh, sorry. Actually, they drop a lot, down to 9.1%. Sorry. Vengeance kind of takes me out there. So they do drop a lot at 30 and up, but 25 and up, they're still a fairly healthy population, tied pretty much with Vengeance for the two most popular specs in general. And then 20 and up, they're also still very, very popular. So Havoc is out there, it's popular. But if we take a look at trends that start to happen in the top keys, we see there's a lot less Havoc. And in fact, we actually see a lot of caster comps now. Now those were very common even with Havoc Demon Hunter. You see them down here, but generally speaking, we've seen a trend start to emerge where if you're running a Vengeance Paladin, a Vengeance Demon Hunter tank, then you actually don't end up using a Havoc Demon Hunter, right? So the Havoc Demon Hunter is really there to kind of buff your mage. We're playing a bit of a buff the mage comp again. Anyway, so yeah, as we see, a lot of tanks here are now Vengeance Demon Hunters, which makes them much less incentivized to bring a Havoc. I'm not saying Havoc still isn't showing up. We go down, we still see a lot of Havocs. And as I said, they're still popular in the keys like 25 and below. But we start to see at the 30 and up range, they're starting to drop them. Now, I can kind of see that happening. Havocs aren't the most tanky, and they aren't like bringing the most damage anymore. They don't have the most utility. All the utility is just a worse version of Vengeance. Vengeance has just a ton of survivability, damage, all that stuff. So Vengeance right now is just kind of pushing a bit of Havoc out of the meta at the top, but we're still very, very strong. We're still very, very good, but we're not as needed. When you bring something like Balance, which has a really good damage profile, is pretty survivable, but the survivability also can be shored up by AUG and other stuff. So generally speaking, you know, if we flip through these pages, you will see a lot of Havoc. Obviously not like a ton, but still a lot of it. You see some fun melee only comps as well for physical damage. You see Shadow Priest start to creep up, as well as Ret Paladin as well, because of recent buffs to their spec actually, where Ret Paladin and Shadow Priest got some pretty big buffs. So I would expect to see more of them coming up pretty soon. So overall, Havoc is still really strong in Mythic Plus, but because of Vengeance, we're actually seeing them start to edge out in the meta. And I actually want to take a look at some stats now. So these are from Jordan, or at Lo-Fi Banshee on Twitter, or X, I guess you could say. They make amazing graphs with tons of data, really cool stuff if you want to check them out. I'll link their Twitter in the description, but they're a great way to kind of look at how the meta is evolving. So right now we're going to look at through the last 3 weeks, so week 11, 10, and 9 of data, just to look at a trend about what's been happening in the top 0.1% title range, because that's really where a lot of the meta kind of comes from, right? So taking a look at through 9 weeks, we can actually see a nice little trend of Havoc here. It was the most popular spec up until week 4 when nerf started to hit, and now it started to drop off. We actually see Mage start to kind of really shoot up after some buffs. We see Rogue shooting up here. Now this hasn't actually been including with the buffs, but Ret has shot up, Warlock's gone up a bit, and so has Shadow Priest also shot up. So Mage has actually eclipsed Havoc and I think Og as well in later data points here. So this is on EU and NA. Havoc has started to drop off a bit. Still very good, but definitely not as good as it was. You can see here on tanks though, Vengeance really has skyrocketed recently. Really interesting healing meta as well, where it's just like the same thing. We can see that Prot Pally kind of plateaued, but Vengeance has really taken off. And Vengeance taking off in week 7 kind of coincides with Havoc dipping a little bit, but not to a major extent. That's week 9. Week 10 was a bit of a different graph. You can see that Vengeance in week 10 takes up most of the tank meta, so to speak, with Prot Paladin being the second bit. And we look at DPS, we can see that melee, Havoc is the largest tank at 273, but is behind Evoker and Mage. So there are roughly equal Vengeances and Havocs about 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago. But the week after, we see Havoc has dropped off, they've gone down by about 10. We see that Vengeance has gone up by a crazy amount, by like 40. And we see that Rogue has gained a lot, Ret has gained a lot, Evoker and Mage, I guess actually Evoker has gone down a bit, but Mage has gone up. So I think we're going to see this trend where Havoc is starting to come down a little bit from where it was. It's still probably going to be the most popular melee. Rogue might eclipse it, Ret might gain some value and be about equal to it or a little bit less than it, but it's still going to be probably the most popular melee. But I don't think that means it's necessarily the meta. But I think right now the meta is kind of really open, right? You can kind of do a lot of different things and end up in different areas and be pretty good overall. So Havoc's still good in Mythic Plus. Not the best, not the worst, but still in meta contention and still very strong. We'll take a look quickly at Raid now as well, and then we're going to wrap up the video. All right, so we're looking at Raid now, and I will say 95th percentile all bosses is a terrible metric to look at, but it's a really easy comparison about how specs are doing for the most part. Now we're going to dig a little deeper because I don't think this is a great way to represent things, because certain things are carried by certain bosses, but Havoc overall is still doing very well. Now, if we look into a little bit deeper and look at different fights, we look at stuff like Smolderon for single target stuff. We are down towards the bottom, but I mean, we don't really amp very well to different amps. We don't have our cooldown windows that line up super well. We have Essence Break, but about it. But if we look at something like Volcaros again, we're like middle of the pack in terms of single target, which is okay. Because if you look at Tindril, we are very high up. Tindril is probably one of our top specs. Also, Warlocks are feasting. I didn't even know they were doing so well here, but Tindril with all the AoE that happens, we're very good at. Farak with all the AoE that happens with the cleave, we're very, very good. Something like Laredar, we're pretty okay at. I guess there's not much cleave there. Where else is there cleave in this raid? I guess Council, we're one of the best melees besides Enhancement Shaman. We have stuff like Gara with spears we're middle at. I think Gnarl Root we're pretty good at. Yeah, so we're pretty good. We're like mid to top mid of the pack. Obviously looking at all bosses, we're pretty high up there. That is carried a bit by certain bosses where something like Nimue, maybe we won't be as good. We're down towards the bottom. So single target, we're kind of middle to slightly below average. Like Cleave and AoE, we're still very, very good. One of the top on Farak, one of the top on Tindril, one of the top on something like Council. Now, obviously in the last 3 bosses, we're still very, very good. Smolderon we're not amazing at, but the last 2 bosses we are very, very strong. So Havoc still in a great spot. We're still one of the most represented specs in general. Or throughout the raid, we look down at parses here. We can sort by parse number. Havoc's are the 3rd most parses, which is pretty common. Now we dropped down a bit in season 2, but we're back up to where we were pretty much behind Beast Mastery and Ret, which you normally expect to see. Demonology taking up the 4th spot. So Havoc's very popular. It's pretty strong. Raid is a great spot to be for Havoc. So overall meta report on both Mythic Plus and Raid, we are strong. We're not absolutely the best spec ever anymore, which I think is a good spot to be. We're above average on most things. Single target, we're a little bit below average. But Cleave, we're very strong. Mythic Plus, we're very strong. We're pretty tanky. We have good like ability to take AoE and not lose a single target. So overall, if you're a Havoc player, I'd be pretty happy. Obviously, we're not like tip top meta, so if you're like pugging 29s or something, you might have a bit of an issue. Although I still think we're good enough that people won't like not take you or anything like that. But overall, good place for Havoc to be. Pretty happy with it. No fear of being nerfed, but we're still strong. So loving it, and I'm enjoying the spec. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Shout out to G Fuel and their new watermelon mint flavor. Check that out. Use code Voodoo or just visit the link in the description. Helps me out. You get some of the flavors and stuff too. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're pushing up to 10,000, which is crazy. We're like, I think 400 away now or something like that. Maybe 410 or something, somewhere there, which is insane. So thank you all so much. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace. A big thank you to all my channel members. Thank you Sky Elk, Fede Grigori, Andrew Keenel, Guillermo Lamas, Period, Brad Wisniak, It's Bulk, Magic Man 133, and Howley. Thank you all so much. You guys are amazing, and I really appreciate the extra support. If you guys want to support me, consider becoming a channel member below. You get access to exclusive videos and some emotes to use in comments and stuff, as well as a special part of my Discord. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.